Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So in previous videos, we've talked about just about everything in this video, but now I'm going to compile this together as the top soft skills. And the thumbnail that you'll see, it's talking about mastering the top soft skills in career development. So let's talk about that. Basically, these soft skills, they can't be mastered. You can be good and you can increase your development and each, but you'll see that it should be a continual process where you just get better throughout time, right? So that should be the goal. So mastering the top soft skills in career development. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but the importance of each is pretty strong. And if you're going to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, or a leader of people, I always say managers manage stuff and process, leaders lead people. Anybody that's in management should have leadership capacity and should have draw to these subjects, because it's going to impact how they basically interact with the team and how they run their day. But also if you're in sales, these skills will make you a better salesperson. You'll be more effective at listening because these skills help you build that. But ultimately, the difference that makes someone worth more money after they've done things for years through time is the development of these soft skills and how to apply them to the business process. So let me say that again. The reason you hire somebody with a resume that's been in positions for an elongated period of time, years, decades, the reason those people are more valuable is because they know how to use these soft skills that we're about to talk about in the standard business process of the job that they're in. So through time, you become vetted, you become wiser, you become more knowledgeable in the role that you're in because you've had the practice of all those things. So it's just like sales. When you say sales is a numbers game, the more people you reach, the more likely you are to get a yes. So it's the same concept under those things, that as you build up thick skin and continue to take no's in sales, the yeses start becoming more frequent because you're not afraid of a no. An objection today just means a reason for somebody to come back to you tomorrow is how you should be looking at that. So let's talk about these soft skills. So there are 8 listed out here that we'll go through. I think it's a good list to start with when you're talking about soft skills. Number 1 is problem solving. Number 2 is teamwork and communication. Number 3 is time management. Number 4 is resilience. Number 5 is emotional intelligence. Number 6 is creativity. Number 7 is lifelong learning. And number 8 is intercultural competence. So intercultural competence has been something that's been big as of 2024, as 2023. Ultimately, all that comes down to is how you treat the people that work for you. And we'll get that one handled when we get there. So number 1 is problem solving. The more tenured you are in a role, the more you get to understand, and the longer you're in a career, and the more positive attitude you have, you're going to realize that everything that comes to you as a objection or as an obstacle ultimately is an opportunity to learn. And every time you do that, and the communication you have and the processes you follow, those are the things that build your problem solving skills and capabilities. So basically, you're going to strengthen your ability to analyze problems and find effective solutions. That's what problem solving is. Practice critical thinking and tackling complex problems. There are some critical thinking components that you should think about. The who, what, why, when, where, and how. Those are the questions that you want to ask. Typically, if you ask those questions 3 times, you can get to the root cause of any analysis. And if you go through those things, it will give you an answer, even if it's extremely simple and it seems like it's just process driven. Do those things because it shows that you have a better understanding of the problems in front of you and the better way to handle that for all those involved. And then the final thing is that you break down larger issues into smaller, manageable tasks. I say all the time, you can eat an elephant one bite at a time. Actually, Theodore Roosevelt said that before me. But that's what it comes down to. That's how you problem solve. You make the problem smaller. You delegate what you can so more people are participating and more people are bought in around that process. And then you fix the problem by what solutions are driven out by that. You start with the best case and you work your way down until you actually have the problem solved. So that is problem solving. We'll talk about complex problems in critical thinking at a later time in a video. Critical thinking is just, going through those questions, who, what, when, where, why, and how, and asking those questions effectively to try to drive down the better understanding of the situation. Number 2 is teamwork and communication. communication is only valuable if the one you're talking to receives the message that you're trying to get across, right? So you want to participate in group projects or in team building activities. You want to do that because you want to be able to communicate in a way that diverse teams and people from different backgrounds can understand what you're saying. I say to all business people, you need to be a chameleon. You need to fit in wherever you're at. That's what a strong business person, salesperson, entrepreneur can do. Doesn't matter if you're talking to a dentist, a janitor, a farmer, a textile worker. It doesn't matter. You should be able to talk to all those people the same way, have effective communication with each. And in the modern world of technology, some people think that their technology pulls them out of this. Not at all. There's always going to be people and customers and opportunities where you need to be able to discuss things in a productive way when it comes to communication and understanding each other. So teamwork and communication is saying participate in group projects or team building activities, focus on building trust, offer to help others and acknowledge their contributions. That is the simplest way to build and work as a team. You need more opportunities to work together to come to a resolution of a problem. That's it. That's how you build teams. And it says 93% of communication is nonverbal. I think it's around 90%. It's the way you look. It's the responses you make with your eyes and your mouth and your hands. So know that there's that too. And you want to be effectively watching these people, that active listening, so you can see how people truly respond to what you're saying and what parts they're fond of versus what they're not, because their face and their hands will tell you, right? And that makes you a more effective communicator. Next is time management. Use techniques like it says Pomodoro to manage your time effectively, and prioritize tasks based on urgency and importance, and practice saying no to non-essential tasks. So let's jump into that around time management. Say no as often as you can. At the end of the day, even if you're the owner of a company, you only have so much time in your day. So around the urgency and importance piece, we've talked about that before. You need to do things first, right? Do things based in the order of importance and then handle urgency. What a lot of companies do is they celebrate multitasking, which just means you're doing a lot of things poorly. Multitasking, what it does, it doesn't allow you to focus on one thing, deliver your best work, and then move to the next. I don't know why people are so infatuated with that and think it's a positive thing. I don't think it's positive. I understand many things happen at many times, but the work that's important, when it talks about the Pomodoro technique, so let's just call it blocking off time. If you take everything you're doing and you put it in time blocks, like I'm going to give this 2 hours to this and I'm going to do that next, that is the most effective way to get things done. Another thing to do is write down, the 5 most important things you need to do tomorrow. Write that down today before you're done. And then tomorrow morning, start with that and use that eat that frog thought process, where the thing that's the least attracted to you, you do that first so you get it done and you're not dreading it throughout the day. And then you jump into the other things and knock it out. That's the best way to manage your time. But say no to things that are not necessary. That's a very Stoic saying. Marcus Aurelius said that. He said, ask yourself, when you're doing something, ask yourself, is this necessary? And if it's not, don't do it. So use those no's for that, and always try to do things based in the order of importance, not based in urgency. In a world where urgency is of the utmost importance, you find out that everything then becomes urgent, right? Because that's the only way to get stuff done, is you make it urgent. So when people get caught in that process, all you're doing is wearing out your teams. Your teams never have a point to get to the place where we got past this. I had an awful boss before in my career that everything that person did was based on urgency. Everything had to be done by this, and this. When they would send the stuff to you, you'd actually see the deadline for this until like 4 weeks out. This person, for some reason, thought by making stuff urgent, he made it more important, or they made it more important. It wasn't more important because it was urgent. You still have to do the first things first to take care of your team and your customers. And then the urgent stuff can get your time at the end of the day. And that's how you should be handling those things. So based on importance, not urgency. That's time management. The next is resilience. So it talks about practicing self-care activities like exercising, meditation, or journaling. Those are all excellent things to do. Journaling specifically, you can see how you respond to things based on your history of response. That's important. When you're talking about self-care, you have to know yourself pretty well to start to take care of those things. So journaling is a great way to figure those things out about yourself. Exercise and meditation, they're good for your thought process. They're good for your body to keep you up for the fight. Fit the fight is what I used to say to teammates. And then surround yourself with a supportive network of friends, family, and colleagues. And I'll take that one step further and say it needs to be a positive group of people. Positivity can make everything easier. Negativity can make everything harder. So you want to keep positive people in your circle. You don't really want to hang out with negative people, and you don't want them participating. If their primary situation is coming from woe is me or oh God, here we go again, then you don't want to be around that person, because this is life. There's no practice. This is life. You get one run at this, and it's short. So no matter if you live, 20 years or 89 years, it's still going to feel short at the end, right? So be positive about it. Your obstacles that come to you day to day in your body of work, that should be something that makes you proud. So go after that. And that's how you build that resilience. It says only 6% of people engaged in health and well-being, self-care every day. Only 6%. I don't know how you can know that number. I say this: do something that's a disconnect that changes over when you go to work versus when you leave work. So when I go to work, I have a cigar on the way. And when I'm on the way home, I have a cigar on the way home. That is my switch. And then when I'm home, I do my life stuff then. The work stuff should be during the day. If you find yourself where you're working 24/7, not only are you being unfair to yourself, you're being unfair to your family. And a job doesn't pay you that well. So make sure you understand what you're doing there when you're doing those things. Number 5 is emotional intelligence. We've done quite a few videos on that. I've recommended some books around emotional intelligence. It's developing your ability to understand and manage emotions, both yours and others. It's practicing empathy and active listening, and it's reflecting on your own emotional responses. That's what I was talking about before in the journaling piece. Emotional intelligence basically says you have the ability to make sure your team is doing well because you respond based on the answer that they need versus the way you feel about the answer. You're removing emotion from the practice. Basically, you only control the things that are in your world. You don't control much, so you shouldn't be letting that stuff bother you. And that's how that works. When people get, I guess the phrase for the recent years has been triggered. No adult human being should be allowed to be triggered. If you're triggered by someone else, that means they control you. Okay? So you own your emotional intelligence. You own your emotional response. So just try to handle those things as best you can. I had a boss one time come to me and give me some feedback that was it was false, but I think they were trying to get a response out of me. And so my response to this was like, wow, I've never received feedback like this before. And the second sentence I said, and I'm reading what you have here, and none of this is true. So we need to do something about that. I said, so how do I handle that? And that was how I handled the conversation. When the person left that conversation, I saw that they truly thought, wow, I thought he was going to lose his temper, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't make sense to lose your emotional control over somebody's response or somebody's opinions. In the day, even if it's a boss, if you know you're putting yourself forward, but you're not being seen through what is truthful, what is clear, then that's not you that's the problem. So you need to document those things and handle them appropriately. And that's emotional intelligence. It says only about 36% of people in the world are emotionally intelligent. That's a fictitious number. There's no way anybody can know that. Here's the point. Emotional intelligence, everybody's emotionally intelligent. Right? Everybody is. They're just at different levels. Like even a toddler is emotionally intelligent. They know I don't take this toy from that person or that person's going to cry. So I'll play with my toy, they'll play with that toy, and maybe later I can play with that toy and this one. That's emotional intelligence for a toddler. So say only 36% of people in the world have emotional intelligence. That's false and that's stupid. Emotional intelligence is everybody. It's just like blood. It's just a different level and different type. Okay, that's all that is. And you cultivate emotional intelligence throughout life. Some people become more emotionally intelligent at a younger age. I ran businesses and teams when I was a young teenager. And so I had to handle teammates a certain way back then. So I had emotional intelligence specifically before other people my age were practicing emotional intelligence to the level that I was. That's all that means. So that's a ridiculous statistic. Everyone is emotionally intelligent. It's just at different levels. Creativity. So cultivate your creative thinking skills. It's a good way to go. Ask those who, what, when, where, why, and how questions multiple times to get to the root cause. Engage in brainstorming sessions or artistic pursuits. Absolutely. The more you do things to be creative, the more creative you're going to become. And I read a lot, and that helps me think of thoughts and ideas in a way that I wasn't thinking of them. So basically, I say that about books all the time. It's a conversation with a person that may be from a different time period that you can't interrupt. So you have no choice but to listen to them and see their viewpoint. That's what's great about reading. It helps you become more creative and helps you in your brainstorming sessions because you can think about those different thought processes that people had outside of yours. And the last is challenge yourself to think outside the box. I hate that term. Think outside of the box. That was such a go-to term for about a decade. There's nothing outside the box. It's thinking creatively. If you're thinking creatively, you're thinking about everything in every different direction, right? So there's no outside of a box. There's no box. That's the point. It's just such a stupid saying. I hate it. So creativity, that's what that is. This is mastering the top soft skills, and creativity is one of them. You can help people fit into their position better if you can be creative in telling them how the position works for them and making sure it matches their understanding. That way you allow them to use their emotional intelligence to understand how this better affects them and how they feel about it. So creativity is an important skill. Next is lifelong learning. This is a skill, and let's see what it says here. People remember 10% of what they read and 90% of what they do. That depends on how they learn. Okay, all people can't be put in the basket or that box that we were just talking about, right? People learn different ways. Some it's through reading, some it's through listening. You have to tell them, and some it's through doing. And some, all three of those ways help them. I like all three to have a true understanding of what's going on. So, lifelong learning is saying take online courses, workshops, or seminars. Sure, that's great. Make learning a habit by setting time for reading, studying, and practicing new skills regularly. I can't stress how important that is for you. You may determine how you earn a living by things that you enjoy doing. That is the great way to find which work you should pursue. Because if you're interested in it and you teach yourself these things, then maybe you should pursue something like that as a career and see if you can't build a better career for yourself in that way. So that's lifelong learning. You should do that any way you can. If you have mentors, have conversations with them regularly, read books regularly. I'm reading 3 or 4 books at a time. Right now, this is my study. 3 walls in this room are full of books, but I have a library at the other end of the house that is chock full of books. So I bet I own more than 2,000 or 3,000 books at this point in my life. I read them and I keep the ones that make sense to keep. There's a list of about 60 that I reread every year. It makes you a different type of person. The understanding that you can give people is much better. And here's the thing though, some people are intimidated by that. That lifelong learning intimidates some people. If it does intimidate the people around you, fine, they're the wrong people. If it intimidates your boss that you know this stuff, then fine, that should be your boss. You need to continue to try to strive and grow so you can get around those people that are in your way because your creativity and your knowledge threatens them. So just know that you're building yourself. You get one go at this. Like I said earlier, there's no practice run. This is the game, right? So do the best. Do everything you can so you live the most fulfilled life you can. And number 8 on this is intercultural competence. It says develop cultural awareness by learning about different cultures and customs. Practice respect and sensitivity towards individuals from diverse backgrounds. Here's how I feel about that. This conversation that we're having about diverse backgrounds these days, diversity and all that, is taking too much of the language. It's very simple. You're one soul, right? You're going to have belief system based on your experiences, and so are everyone else on the earth. So this intercultural competence, I would take that back to, forget that name, forget what that says. That's just respecting the individual. Everyone you meet is going to have a different story and come from a different background and have different parents and have a different expectation of life. I mentioned a quote before in a video where if you raised 5 different kids in the same household at the same time, they would have 5 exclusive, specifically independent thoughts and responses to how they grew up. Okay, that's simple facts. Everybody experiences things differently. So all I would say here for that intercultural competence, you can drop that. It's got nothing to do with culture. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with sexual preference or any of that garbage. It has to do with an individual's view of another individual. When we allow ourselves to be grouped in with a selective group, that is not what America's about. Okay, that's not what the world should be about. That's not what freedom is about. If you were to talk to my friends, they come from every background, every diverse function you can think of. And some don't agree with me on anything. But guess what? They're still my friends because when we debate things, it makes me better in a conversation around the world because I have their viewpoint as well as my viewpoint. So I don't sit there and rest on that. I engage around that accordingly. So yes, you're going to feel more comfortable to be in a room with people who think and are like you. But at the end of the day, part of that lifelong learning is understanding these different things that are radically important to different individuals. And then you use your common sense from there. So, and the other point too is when you say intercultural competence, what you have is you have people trying to generate a subculture that meets their expectations. They're not actually participating in a true culture. And then all these subcultures, that's just the way that people try to divide themselves. That's not what this intercultural competence should be about. It should be about unifying the group, the team, the world as one, because at the end of the day, you have one life, right? And the more people you can include with the more diverse backgrounds, look at it as food, right? If you go through the world only eating one thing your whole life, that's going to be pretty boring. But if you go and you try all foods from different cultures, from different places of the world, you might enjoy some of those things greatly. That's the best way to paint a picture. Everything is the same. Okay, so you're going to have to figure out it for yourself, but it comes down to individual openness to what's around you. So those are mastering the top soft skills in career development. Take it with a grain of salt, the statistics people have. They're literally statistics that will support any side of an argument any day of the week in 10 different ways, right? So I would look less around the statistics and the thought around here, around the problem solving, teamwork, communication, time management, resilience, emotional intelligence, creativity, lifelong learning, and intercultural competence. All this is about is creating a better you. So you get more fulfillment from your job, but more fulfillment from the conversations you have, and more fulfillment from the experiences that you have going throughout life. Hopefully this is useful to you. If you like this and content such as this, please like the video, share it on your social media if you could, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your time. Be good.